Today on Habits and Money, I have a very dynamic personality in studio. The dynamic personality that I'm referring to is Whitney.
Essential Care Pharmacy, providing more than your healthcare needs. Get the best in muscle building products, health supplement products, beauty care products, medical supplies, colognes and cosmetics, blood pressure testing kits. Access our medical doctors, and so much more. Essential Care Pharmacy, your leading healthcare provider.
And Whitney Riley, she holds a Bachelor of Arts in Fine Arts. She also studied in the field of physics and painting and psychology, but she is much more than this. She is also an entrepreneur. Over the last 10 years, she has started a business, and that business is better known as Start Your Better Life. A large part of what Whitney does is really help people through transformation. So she refers to herself as a transformational mentor. And I must say, I'm so excited to talk with Whitney today because I know that the information that she's going to share with you today can literally transform the way you see yourself and can tremendously impact the way you do business. So without further delay, do join me in welcoming Whitney on stage. Whitney.
Hi, Gary. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure to have you here today. How has your day been to you so far?
It's been good. It's been good. Measured and calm. So preparing to chat with you.
Awesome, awesome. Whitney, let us begin by talking a little bit about your bachelor degree. You hold a bachelor degree in fine art. What inspired you to pursue studies in this area?
Well, I think it was always in me. We grow up kind of with these ideas about what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And I think the societal vibes were art is kind of a secondary thing, a hobby, or you're going to lose an ear or be penniless or crazy or something like that. So I kind of always put it off to the side and didn't indulge in it, but it just stayed. And a big life event happened. I was studying physics, and a big life event happened where I had to look at my own mortality. And at the end of my days, I didn't want to be laying there in my deathbed or whatever, thinking I had missed this thing.
Okay. Other than studying fine arts, you went on to study physics, you went on to study painting, you went on to study psychology. Can you help us to understand a little bit about what these studies entail and how they benefit you? Let us begin by looking at physics.
That was my first love. I think that, when you look back in hindsight's 2020, I think I was just a seeker of knowledge since the beginning of my journey here. And then in high school, when physics came around, I was just like, wow, I'm all in. I think I tricked myself in a way thinking physics was going to be something more substantial than art. But the way that, and then, it was my major, I was like, totally, that was my first kind of thing in college. And I did that for quite some time, but I totally was into theoretical physics, the like how it all comes together, the macroscopic and the microscopic. And my life probably would have been much different than being an artist. It wasn't like going into oil and gas or, having some more practical thing. But then again, my dad died. I gave myself this permission to take one painting class from this world of, math, science, the hypothesis, exploration of ideas, and the world tilted. And I just knew in my heart and soul that I was meant to do this, but I really didn't know the end goal, and I've had this business for 10 years, but I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I didn't really know that, but I was always plotting, planning from 7 years old, like making maps and trying to sell them to the neighbors or something. Anyway, so it all started to come together in like this shocking thing. When you trust something inside of you that you can't see where you're going, it can really rattle your sense of like who you are, how's this going to turn out. I am nuts. I'm going to lose an ear. But through studying art, I realized we could solve so many problems. That element of who we all are, these creative, incredible beings, I learned more about learning in those art years, getting that art degree, than a lot of the years in physics. Like you learn the tactile stuff, but after that, I believed I could do anything because in art, you literally create. You are taking an idea and again and again and again, and you're creating it, and then you're defending it to your, professors and peers, and then out in the world. And I think the physics that, and then going back to get a PhD in clinical psychology, which I did not finish. It took 1 year, and I was like, this is not for me. All of those go into how I help mentor people to their best selves.
What I love about what you're saying is that I am seeing, first of all, you went through all of this. You're young, you're like a sponge, you're taking in information, and you're taking in all these information, which became part of your journey to transformation. Perhaps it started with the physics, you move on to, fine arts. Now you move on to clinical psychology. I see that as your own personal journey that really helped to shape the way you think today and what you do and now how you plan to impact people. But can we talk a little bit? I want us to go deep into transformational mentorship. But just before we get into transformational mentorship, can we talk just a little bit about clinical psychologists and how did doing this study, if you did study it for a year or two, how did it help to fashion the way you think about the mind?
Well, I mean, there's so many aspects from the social psychology and how, this one of them, I'll just speak to one of the most impactful things with me because there are many, many things: organizing human behavior, looking for solutions, categorizing behaviors for potential treatments. There's a lot, right? But the social aspects were some of the most impactful to me, that when they did research about behavior, it's very easy for us to go, oh, that person's a bad person because they ran a red light or they cut me off or do some behavior like in business, right? And then we form an opinion about this whole character. Well, in this one study, or actually multiple studies, but one, there was a person slumped over in front of a door. They tracked who stopped to help this person. And the variety of people went from just, your everyday person all the way to I think there was a priest. They measured that the people who stopped were people who had more time in that moment. They weren't racing to get somewhere. So the behavior was shaped by this context that we don't consider. That also bleeds kind of into what I do now, because judgment and the story that we frame our context in can be so limiting in our money and our business relationships, but also our personal relationships, which at some point we're the point, right? We're the only one in the room. We're the point in all aspects of our lives. And so even personal struggles can bleed into how we show up for business, right? Because if it's the context behind and then we're acting in the moment, everything is connected and we're not authentically in that moment to be our best self. I don't know if that made sense.
Yes, Whitney, it makes a lot of sense. I think that very often people become the product of their experiences, good or bad. And I do believe that it is something for us to be more aware of. And it's something for us, I believe, to be conscious that we have control over. And I think that's where the transformation comes into play. But we're going to do a deep dive into all that you do shortly. Just before we get into that, I want us to reflect a little bit on your business. 10 years ago, you started Start Your Better Life. Help us to understand what was your frame of thinking when you decided to start your better life, and what was the key focus behind the start of this operation?
The key focus. Well, I think I claimed this chapter of my life. I'd been an artist. I'd had solo shows, been somewhat successful in that endeavor. I was a founding member of a studio that still exists, an art gallery. And I had been back up just a little bit. In my life, I was diagnosed with abrupt, like this panic disorder. I went from being normal to all of a sudden having these crazy feeling, right? Lots of medical bill, like going to try and discover what was wrong with me. I had no idea. Some doctors even yelled at me. They're like, there's nothing wrong with you. Would you just stop coming? And then I found myself sort of doctorless, and I went to the strip mall clinic, burst in, demanded a chest x-ray. I was like, I have lung cancer, so I can't breathe. All of a sudden, I was surrounded by white coats, and they checked off in these lists, and diagnosed me with panic disorder, and literally just sent me on my way with that of I think Zoloft. That I had an autoimmune disorder later, and then all the grief and sort of insanity with both my parents getting ill and dying early, and me kind of being primary caregiver before I'd even taken care of a child or started my life. Those things set me up to make decisions, and I over and over again just couldn't. I took one of those pills, threw them away. It was horrible. It was hard, but I opened up to figuring out how to get to the other side. And again, it's one of those things, just like the painting thing, like my body knew it. I didn't know how it was going to turn out. It was pretty scary and definitely very lonely. So I learned all of these really powerful thoughts, like you were saying a minute ago, where being aware starts the transformational journey. And there's that power that we sort of accidentally just give away all the time. Like the ship, right? We're floating on the sea and we don't know that we can set the sail. We just let the ocean push us where we want to go. But all of that brought me to these tools that I started sharing with friends, strangers at parties, like, because they were so powerful. And I kind of saw it coming, but I pushed it away. And then roughly 10 years ago, I went, got some certifications, decided to basically come out of the closet. At first, I was like, oh, it's going to be weird. And also there are all these people already doing it, so there won't be a need. And I had to, I mean, I think all of us as entrepreneurs, like there is the paperwork, the idea, the plan, networking, the things you can do, but there's an identity we have to step into, right? And we can only experience it by doing it. And it's just a thought. And it's kind of that risky business. That was kind of how it all went in. I'd helped so many people, so much evidence that this was necessary. And I decided to make it a thing.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that went into your story, and you ended up with people need to have that identity from your experience and from the work that you're doing, from the work that your business is setting out to do, has set out to do. Do you think that people suffer with an identity crisis?
That is a great question. I think most of us are suffering from identity crisis without even realizing. So, a big part of my work is we are constantly hijacked by hidden parts that we don't know we're hijacked by. Like we know the big parts, right? It's clear. We're like, oh my gosh, a lot of little parts hijack us all the time and take us like, down these well-oiled grooves. And we think we're being reasonable and in control when there's a part of us that might even be 3 years old, making a very life or death decision about money, about how somebody's going to reject us, or really anything, fill in that gap, because we all come from our experiences. To call back to what you said, we emotionally frame something before we ever experience it. And so,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Beautiful. What you're saying is so deep, and I agree with you 101%. And I do believe that many persons, knowingly or unknowingly, they go through identity crisis. And I can share with you reasons for my belief. One of the things that we were socialized to many years ago during academic studies is that there's a concept that we call the self-image theory. Now, what the self-image theory does, it looks at four selves. On one side, you have the ideal self. The ideal self is the way you would like to be. Then you have the looking glass self. That is the way, you think others see you. And then there's a self-image, the way you see yourself. But deeper than all of this, you have the real self. And what I find very often, people don't know enough about the real self. So they are battling between all of these different selves, because I do not believe that there's enough teaching. There's not enough transformational teachers like yourself to really help them to become anchor with a true understanding of the real self, and to really become anchor in the real self, and to allow that to be the springboard of who you become. But just let me share with you two things. I want to share with you what is my interpretation of the real self, and then I'm going to bring it back to transformational mentorship, and then we're going to do a deep dive into that. My understanding of the real self is that it's you in your real essence. What I've grown to realize, what I've grown to believe and accept is that we as a people, regardless of where we came from, regardless of where we're at, we have this unstoppable potential in us to be great. But in most cases, we don't know it. People just don't know that you're not defined by past. You're not even defined by the present. You're defined by the fact that you are a being. You have control and choice over your being. For example, you could make a decision right here and right now that I want to be an author. I want to be a speaker. I want to be great. And the only thing that is holding you back is you. But from the time you take recognition of that fact and you embrace that you don't have the fairy tale godmother and godfather that is coming to help you. But guess what? You in of yourself, you can be your fairy tale godmom, your fairy tale goddad, and you can literally nurture these things into being. That for me is the essence of the real self. But I don't believe that we are taught enough. I think that we have so much of social conditioning, we have so much of programming around us that is completely so distant from the real self that the real self get totally lost in translation with all of those noise that is around you. So that's just my view on what the real self is. What I want to do, I want to
Can I
share.
comment
Go
on that?
ahead.
That is
Go ahead.
so good. No, I mean, I love that. And instantly I was like, I think instead of being taught who the real self is, we are taught to never access that. It is
Yeah.
dangerous, scary. It is how you get rejected and like excommunicated, right? And
Mhm.
this is in our childhood. Like if we show up as our authentic self, curious, creative, so necessary. We are so necessary, each and every one of us, and we are so unique, even if we're doing the same thing. But what happens? Don't do that. Go to your room. Don't show up until you have a pleasant look on your face. Like we are so fractured in order to get the acceptance that those external pieces you're saying, like, you ping pong around with the mirror and the this. Most of us are working for approval. We're not working for ourselves. If we don't get those quick little hits, especially as entrepreneurs, like we can spin out of control, self-doubt, make a quick turn. This isn't working. Don't stay with it long enough. There's so many things that happen because we need those quick fixes of approval, or it is terror. We don't know that it's terror exactly because then we drink, we eat, we work out too much, we work too much, all the thing because we don't want to turn that way. It's dangerous to be authentic. It's scary to take that real self because it's lonely and it might not
Yeah.
die with your
Yeah,
people.
what you have just said is so profound. It is a fact that the majority of people today, and they work for approval, and it's not hard to diagnose why. I think for most people, for most of their life, you're socialized in a particular way. I do believe that living your life fully dependent on the approval of someone else, and for you to move forward in your essence, is a recipe for disaster. And I think too many people live in what I call the looking glass spectrum. The looking glass is where you do things to get approval, and if you don't get approval, you don't feel good about yourself. And once you're living in that essence, you're not living in your true essence of positioning yourself to attain greatness. So I do see a major trap there, a major dilemma there, and I really love the work that you're doing in this regard. But the big question I want to ask Whitney, we know that a lot of what is happening today, we know a large part of how people think today is based on socialization. We might want to say parental socialization, we may want to say societal socialization. I do believe that I don't want to blame parents because I think our parents, on one hand, they were trained to think in a particular way, and all they did is pass that down. But I think that there are a bigger picture of socialization where persons are socialized to think in a certain way, do things in a certain way, and if you go against those norms, of course, there may be emotional consequences at the least.
And the identity crisis, right?
And the identity crisis. The big question I want to ask Whitney is, what do you think, or why do you think the big players are afraid of to, in terms of keeping people away from truly identifying the rich potential that they have to be great? Is there something to be afraid of on their side, and what do you think that is?
Just to understand the question, you're asking like what are the key factors, the big players keeping people from their best?
Yeah. Have you spent any time looking at this to really say,
I
perhaps there's
absolutely,
okay.
absolutely. And I think we've been talking a lot around it and about it.
Yeah.
And what I have, the biggest part is that logic very rarely gets you to the liberation from that hidden, the conditioning that we accept, but also the hidden conditioning that like we hit the brick wall, we hit the brick wall.
Mhm.
I'm going to write a book about for my business. I'm going to create a book for lead magnet or to share my information with the world or become an expert, whatever it is. And then you sit there and you don't write the book, but you keep trying and you keep trying. What is that hidden wall? We can talk about procrastination, we can talk about fear. You can sit there and go, I feel like I don't want to, but how do you get to the thing that logic can't get to? And that is the kind of the whole point of the method from many, many, many teachings. There's EFT in there. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It is on the meridian lines, like acupuncture. It is
Mhm.
deep. People have called it brain rewiring. There's so much research on its efficacy. They're still not 100% sure how or why it's happening, but like you can be healed almost as fast as you can be traumatized. You can go from 100% procrastination to then like all of a sudden, right? Like writing a few words down, but because it gets into the body. So pairing that with, there's another, it's called the Imago dialogue, where you validate and basically connect and go to deep understanding with somebody's worldview, no matter what it is, instead of, we're like, I feel this way. And then the other person goes, well, I feel this way, right? When we dialogue, we're taking our position. The Imago dialogue is, I hear you feel frustrated. Tell me more. It's this opening up that doesn't happen. We're taught from an infant. You start crying, go cry it out. Or you pick it up and it's like, let me fix it, let me fix it. And then there's this anxiety. So the baby starts to already create these things, and we don't have words, right? But these things are still hijacking us. They shape our worldview.
Mhm.
One of my clients is just an example. He's battling, and he's an entrepreneur, very successful, has multiple things, irons in the fire, media out in the world, and he feels it's hard for him to connect on a personal level, and it's hard to let people in, right? So we've been working, and we go back to this place where it literally was like, yeah, I was left to cry it out in the crib, and he was the youngest of a big family, and he could hear all this fun happening, and he made a belief, not in words but a belief, it is up to me to survive alone. No one's coming for me.
Great.
Guy's in his
Mhm.
60s now, and he's been fighting this. He's got health concerns. Because he's still operating in that energy. So getting into the body and going and healing that piece and going, hey, it's not happening anymore. You can let go, and I'm going to take care of you now. And we become the parent of ourselves, right? The
Mhm.
guide. That's the transformational mentoring. I'm not a coach. Kind of looks like that. Could look like a spiritual advisor, energy, psychology, but it's guiding a person to liberate themselves. And then
Mhm.
you keep reclaiming these parts.
Pitch Deck 101 LLC out of New York do more than just support our clients to pitch their businesses to investors access working capital at 0% APR. We also support our clients to grow and scale their businesses faster and cash flow optimize. Pitch Deck 101 LLC recent partnership with 10X Branding Marketing LLC and Global Capital Inc. out of the USA has enabled us to form unique partnership with multiple financial institutions, which means we can do even more to accelerate the success of our clients. Let Pitch Deck 101 LLC give you the support you need to pitch to investors, access capital, access new markets and grow and scale your business. Contact us now on 332 235 1099 for a free consultation.
I want us to go deep into some of what you do. But just before I do the deep dive into your life, your role as a transformational mentor, I want to highlight a couple of other things about you, some of your success. You were blessed by the Dalai Lama. And I think that is so outstanding, and a lot of person would love to, be in that space with the Dalai Lama. You were also nominated for a Nobel Prize. You are an author. You have written the book titled "Make Everything Easier," and you are also a specialist in terms of looking at how to overcome resistance. So we have a lot to look at, and today you also speak a lot about the me method. We will talk about what the me method is all about. But just before we do that deep dive into all of your essence, or some of your essence, because I know I'm not going to be able to capture all of you today, can we talk a little bit about transformational mentorship? And I love that we started off where we started off, because the role that you play now is regardless of where people are at. They might be in a position where they feel stuck, they're in a position where they feel lost. My interpretation of what you're doing is helping them to transform from that space to be in a place where they truly want to be. Can you really help us to understand what is your role as a transformational mentor and transformational coach?
I hold space and help guide someone into their own body. So the keys to that transformation are already in you. The number one thing to know from my perspective, and almost everyone rejects it full out, is that you are already perfect exactly as you are. And I've had clients who were 33-year heroin addict who transformed and went to recovery after a few sessions, all the way to executives, CEOs, therapists, psychiatrists. So you are already perfect no matter what is happening, right? And to call back to that, the mirror, the true self, the perfection is always inside of you. If you're seeking perfection because of some accomplishment, some goal, the way you look, whatever it is, you're always chasing something outside of yourself, and you'll always be chasing. We start bringing in this idea that I'm perfect, however flawed or not like I want my life to be right now, but you're looking for the next perfect moment. And inherent in this moment are the keys to transforming into that next person. And you hold all the keys. You already have everything that you need. And it's going to access that, or like the story, liberate these things working in opposition, framing the story in a way that feels concrete and that you will fight for, sometimes to the death. Is just, it's just smoke and mirrors, and you heal that part and it disintegrates. And that's why the book is called Make Everything Easier. Every single one of my clients in one way or another was like, well, it just got easier. And I was like, did it just get easier, or did you do something? You change the game when you're able to start reclaiming these shattered parts of yourself back into wholeness. And then you keep the
Right.
superpower coping, but you don't get
Mhm.
hijacked to cope and then go, why did I do that again?
Yeah, I love that statement. Fight to the death for something that you truly believe in. And that leads me to the next question I want to ask you, because what I've seen is that many persons, instead of fighting, the amygdala put them to flight. Instead of the amygdala tell us about the fight or flight. Most people don't fight for the things they believe in. They take flight. The big question I want to ask you is, what is the greatest challenge that you see people are faced with in that transformation process? Is it fear? Is it, what is the biggest challenge that you see people go through? Because I see sometimes people want change, right? But people are fearful of the unknown. People don't have the support system. People have so many years of how they were socialized. So to detox from that way of thinking as they go through the transformation and that you are now providing, what are some of the biggest challenges you see people have to deal with?
That is a complex web of information you just
Yeah,
accessed my
I
brain.
know.
I think making the commitment to do something. So we could talk for hours. We could sit here and talk for 10 hours, and we're still going to be talking around having the experience, right? And so people have a really hard time going, you know what, it's urgent that I do this for myself. That is probably the biggest challenge, or this
So it's
idea,
taking ownership of
taking a
what
leap.
you want in your life. Yeah.
Well, yeah, taking a leap. And then so here's a great thing. So we always think we're choosing. I'm going to use weight, easy example. I want to lose 10 pounds, right? I chose that I want to lose. Why am I not losing 10 pounds? In the background, there might be a thought, well, I don't want to buy new clothes. Either I really like my clothes or I don't want to spend the money on that. Maybe I won't be able to go to happy hour with this person or that person. Maybe, and then deeper in the recess, if there's food for comfort, right? It's like I might be sad, I might be lonely. I won't feel good anymore. These things are playing, right? That's not choosing. And that's kind of it's really not a concrete example because we're so complex, but it's an understandable example, right?
Yeah.
But you're going to start a business, right? Or you're in your business. And then let's say you have a vendor or a partner or a boss, or I guess you wouldn't be your boss, or an employee, and you have a personality that is non-confrontational. And so you then start working really hard to demonstrate this is how we're going to do it. This is the measure. And you think that you're being clear by choosing this, right? The other person has no idea what you're doing. And then you go into this deep conflict because now you're enraged. Well, look, I put in extra hours, I did this, I did that. And now you're mad because the other person isn't coming up. And in fact, they might start working less because their belief is like, well, this person's doing it, because you can't have the conversation. And you're so wired that if I ask this person to do this, they're going to get mad and
Yeah.
I'm not going to be okay.
I'm happy and yet not surprised you're making this statement, because I do believe that very often we may sell our ideas and we believe that the next person has a clear mental picture of what is being said, but very often they are not clear. And I'm so happy that you, as a transformational mentor, you are conscious of how information is packaged and how information is disseminated. And it must be packaged and disseminated in a way to give the other person that is listening to you, the person at the other side of the table, a fair chance of understanding what you're saying. Now, speaking to your truth, what I find happens very often, you as an intellectual author, you may have a very clear picture of what you're saying. So it's clear to you. And what happens very often, you can speak in cluster, meaning that you're given so much of information at one time. The person that is listening to you is not familiar with your content. So they are not given a fair chance to deduct and digest your truth. So one of the things that I would always say also, why not give just bite-sized nuggets and filter it up, all right? So that you give the person a chance not only to understand you, but not to misinterpret what you're saying, and which can lead to slowing down your processes and not achieving your objectives. So I've just said this because of the fact of what you've just said. And I really love that as one goes through your transformational process, these are some of the things that you are sensitive of as to how you roll out the program. And I also want to touch on 2 points. I do believe that today, as we look at transformation in organization and transformation in life, I think very often persons just look at the thesis. But what I'm seeing is that the thesis alone, it's good, but it's not good enough. To foster transformation, there is what I call emotional intelligence and all of these different things that you are now going into, and which I love. But the question that I want to come to now and Whitney is, as a transformational mentor, what are some of the particular changes and transformation that you are looking for, that you want to accomplish for your community, for your clients? What particular transformation are you looking?
So for me, everybody comes to me, and what I do is use thoughts or emotions to drill down to the body. What I'm looking for is for the person to be able, like, we're so in our head. And to call back very early in the conversation, we were talking about something that made me think the amygdala, you were like, it's not in the past anymore. We're not even in the present, right? The amygdala, like our brain, our emotions, where we're triggered from in our body, cannot tell time, isn't cognizant that I'm not 40 years, 20 years, 3 years old, and this thing is happening, right? And it hijacks us, and then we think we operate from this hijacked place thinking we're in control, because that's what the brain does, fills in the gaps. It is like a hand or a foot more than our identity. Our identity is the part of us that watches our thoughts, that has the experiences. So I'm looking for in individual clients or in groups to help people get to their own that connection to have a shift. And once you find that and you liberate it, it doesn't hijack you anymore. But I can't look for an outcome necessarily. Everybody starts with a big goal. I asked them to write a goal and I'm like, is that big enough? Make it as big and unfathomable as you can think, but doable. Like, not like we're going to go live on Mars or something that, something that you can potentially experience, right?
Yeah.
And we measure like how plausible that is, right? So those are the kind of the frames, but how you get there and what happens in the process, I personally try not to look for things except for the connection to the place in their body. And for your listeners, like right now, like I can give you, if you want to do this, like a quick thing that can help you in almost any situation to at least get yourself out of fight, flight, fawn, or lower your cortisol so you can be a little more present. And it's simply like taking a deep breath, finding your body, and then consciously breathing 3 times without augmenting your breath and measuring 0 to 100% of your lung capacity. How much am I breathing? And then is it 20%? Is it 30%? Is it 80%? You start to connect to the part below your head, right? Your body is a huge part of your experience and it stores every experience you've had.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to get to those and liberate them. And I can tell you some outcomes that are exciting. And by the way, just to finish that before I get to it, let's say that you're breathing 20%. You would use EFT and quickly you tap on the side of your hand. Even though I'm breathing 20%, send yourself a lot of love. This is where I am right now. You do that 3 times and then you tap through top of the head, eyebrow, side of the eye, under the nose, chin, collarbone, and then on the sides of your body, under your arm. And you just say the most simple thing you can do is say that same statement. I'm only breathing 20% and do 3 to 5 rounds. You will find a shift that's very powerful. It's very simple and very powerful. Before you're going into a board meeting, before you're going to ask for money, before you're going to throw out an offer, before you're going to anything. It is one of the simplest and most powerful ways to lower cortisol in your body and start to feel more grounded.
Interesting. Love
Yeah.
it. There's actually a way, there's a method in which you can program your mind to become what I would call the big ticket thinker. I know you was about to dive into to that. And only today I had that conversation with my audience. We were talking about big ticket thinking. And I often talk about, knowing your process and being a good leader and being able to systemize what you're doing. While you talk about touching particular parts of the body, there's new science that support a whole lot of what you're saying today in terms of the breathing and all of these different things. So love it. I know you want to say something. Go right ahead.
Oh, I was listening. I was listening to you, and there's so much research and so many things. I was listening and thinking about what you were saying, and I think one of the most important things to share with your audience is there's so much research on this, the efficacy in our current time and for the last 30, 40 years when Gary Craig brought EFT onto the scene and a lot of the body work, different like thought field therapy and things like that. But here's the deal. No matter how solid the research is, as a society, it takes 20, 40, 60 years to change the mainstream and accept different processes.
Essential Care Pharmacy, providing more than your healthcare needs. Get the best in muscle building products, health supplement products, beauty care products, medical supplies, colognes and cosmetics, blood pressure testing kits. Access our medical doctors, and so much more. Essential Care Pharmacy, your leading healthcare provider.
I think the only way of it takes quite some time, particularly if you are on this journey alone. What helps to fast track the learning process is your ability to now surround yourself with mentors, surround yourself with coaches, surround yourself with that supportive community. It can really, really help you to detox from the past and to really adopt your concept of what the new awakening is all about. In some of the programs that we are doing some deep dive, we are doing some testing, we are doing some research, we are building some thesis around some of the very same things that you're doing. And one of the things that we were looking at recently is a simple concept. What is the difference between eyesight and mind sight? It would surprise you to see what is being revealed. A lot of people people see success through eyesight. As we dig deeper into seeing success through the eyesight, what we recognize is that you may see a luxurious building. You may even see $1 million in front of you, and this is seen as believing. But guess what? There is tremendous limitation to eyesight, because one thing that eyesight doesn't tell you is how the process works. So, for example, you may see a luxurious building. Do you understand the entire process to reverse engineer that? You may see $1 million in front of you, but do you see the science behind the $1 million? And that's eyesight. Mindsight is different, because mindsight looks at what some of the things that you look at. Mindsight helps you to understand clear processes. Mindsight helps you to understand the systems. What we have also do is link some of this to the fight or flight. Again, what we've seen is that people that are trained to flow from mindsight, that's knowing what to do, why to do it, how to do it, they are in a better position to fight for the things that they believe in, because they not only know it's possible, but they also have that blueprint and to attain success. And I do see a lot of this as being aligned to a lot of the work that you're doing as a transformational mentor. I do believe that what you're doing is vital. It's important, long overdue, really helping people to reframe their thoughts, moving from lack and limitation and doubts into the mindset where they can now think abundance, and they can see it's possible, and they can also have that game plan and to go make it happen.
Without
And
without the drag.
exactly. And that's what you're doing. And I really love that. How, before I come to your experience with the Dalai Lama, can you tell me a little bit, how does it feel? And what sense of satisfaction, joy, and happiness does it bring to you to look in the eyes, the face of your client, your community, just be part of that experience of the transformation that they're going through? Your method, your system is working. How does it makes you feel?
I believe it's a miracle. I believe I get to sit.
Yeah.
It's the most wonderful experience. I just want to give a couple examples to kind of like, and we're talking around it. And,
Mhm.
once you get into those parts, there was a guy who wanted to increase his income. He did work with me, and basically we found like his partner triggered him about stuff about his dad, who was an alcoholic and a little abusive, and abandoning them. And he was like, no way, this is ridiculous, totally reject it. But he kept coming back. We doubled his income. We worked on this and helped him have better health markers and lose some weight. And then I was like, wow, you doubled your income. Why don't you double it again? And he lost his mind, like some inside trigger. And he was like, nothing is ever enough. And like kind of lost his mind a little bit. And I was sitting there, I was like, and then we kind of laughed, right? Because like, it doesn't matter whether he doubles it again or not. Like I have no skin in the game. I'm here because you're here and you want to have a better life. And so we laughed about that. And he was like, wow, that was like, I was hijacked, but he didn't know it. He was acting out of the hijacked self, thinking he was protecting, himself. So within 3 months, he doubled his income again. And by the end of the year, he had almost 7 times his income. That was way back. That was, I don't know, 13 years ago or so, 12 years ago or so. And so that's when I was working without the business part or owning it in the world. He actually founded a scholarship for 12 people to go through this program, because he was like, everybody. And that actually was the origin of the book and the me method. The
Make
big
everything
idea.
easy. We had talked about the book just now.
Yeah, well, and you said detox, right? The whole
Yeah.
thing, emotional detox. The whole method to get in there and reclaim your best sense of self is emotionally detoxing from your entire life.
Wow. I must say it's so phenomenal. I mean, we almost eat up a whole hour here, and I feel as though I haven't even started to talk to you as yet. You're very deep, Can we talk a little bit about how did it feel? What was that experience like for you to be touched, to be blessed by the Dalai Lama?
I was not actually touched. I was supposed to meet him. I was actually dating a Secret Service guy at the time, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to bring you in to meet the Dalai Lama." And at the last minute, I wasn't able to physically go in. And then he was, but no, I'm bringing, I'm bringing you in, and he's going to bless you. And I wasn't actually touched by him, but I will say this: it was a incredible experience. experience. Like at the time that it happened, I was still doing a lot of the self-healing, the self-work, and in my thoughts or in reality, it changed the trajectory of my life. And I do believe that's part of how I ended up being able to serve people with the capacity that I am able to be with them in their most fragile, protected, shame-filled, whatever parts, to bring light to all of that. So I do feel so grateful that I had that opportunity. Even though it wasn't in person, it was a
Great.
really amazing experience.
Well, as it should, as it should, and the Dalai Lama is held in very high esteem, and to be anywhere, to feel that energy, I think it ought to be a phenomenal experience. You have written the book and make everything easier, and I think that's what life should be like, and I think sometimes we overcomplicate things, and sometimes if it's not complicated, we think that it's not learning. If it's too easy, we think it's trivial. But I must say, more and more in life, I've recognized that life is really about you trying to elevate yourself, where you could make information sharing easier for the person next to you to comprehend. When I hear your book, make everything easier, I tend to get a sense of what you're saying. But talk to us about your book, Make Everything Easier, and what was the objective behind this book? What was your thought process behind writing this book?
Working on it for a really long time, trying to get this process that I had 10 years ago, this idea of helping a lot of people. Part of when we do these personal things, I don't know if your listeners have done, bigger groups, it can get watered down. And sometimes that's really good, right? Because like you said, bite-sized pieces. But I was going in my own life, I was like, I want big transformation. I want to be free, right? I want to know the real self, right? I want to be able to show up and do hard things. One of the things I didn't say about my dad dying is I actually watched him die. And in this moment, I saw my own mortality. I saw how we're responsible. Like he was born alone and he died alone, even though I was crawling on the bed going, Dad, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. He was having his own unique experience that I could not go on with him no matter what. And so that alone changed the trajectory of my life, like where it's like, I'm here and I'm not going to let fear stop me. I'm going to try for the big thing, even though people think you stay in your lane, be small, you'll never make that happen. It was a huge shift that made me do these things. And then I wanted a program that many people could do in a group and get the big stuff, right? In order to do that, it has to be specific, emotional. So I kind of like thought through it and I was like, well, why not start with the emotions? And then the whole idea of if you're having a bad day, you're like, well, this and this and this, it like triggers because the mind actually follows the cue. And if you're having a great day, then you're like, oh, look at these great things in my life. So I just tried to capitalize on human tendency, right? To get past the guard that are in your body that block us from ever getting to those parts working in opposition, right? Why are we in a meeting and all of a sudden we act like our 7-year-old self with some coping? Well, that's in our body. That's not in your mind. That's in your body. And it comes out. It's like, oh, that guy just did this thing that the guy down the street used to do and my brother did when they ganged up on me. So I'm going to do this weird thing that I did to try and have power when I had no power. And then you're sitting there and everybody goes, okay, right? And you're like, why did I do that? Why did I just throw away like all this stuff I'd worked for, right? It's not that big of a deal, but the person who did it, it's like, the want. The book is designed to go in, clear all of that out so you can bring those parts back into working with you in the light, not in the shadows, sabotaging you, or just making everything come out sideways, making everything so hard. It doesn't have to be that hard. The past is over. The future isn't here yet. You're amazingly perfect right now. And if you're going to make a mistake, that's okay. It's how you get to the success, right? So I kind of all over the place. But then I did the research and it's just kind of been, and then I had to do my own work on myself to actually write the book. Yeah.
Well, I must say I'm enjoying all of this, because being in similar spaces like you, I recognize as a teacher, as a mentor, as a lecturer, as a coach, one of your greatest task is to hold yourself accountable for how you dispense with information. And one of the accountability factor is to be able to make it simple, make it easy. So I want to say that what you're doing is a very noble thing. And I love it because it tells me that you're laying the foundation to ensure that more people not only listen to you, but they understand the concept. And the more that they understand your concept, I do believe it's the better able they are going to be to apply the concepts. And the more they apply the concepts that you're sharing, is the better they're going to be in experiencing the transformation that you really want to see take place in their life. Whitney, a large part of what you also focuses on, you are so committed to helping your clients, your community to overcome the concept that you call resistance. Can you talk to us about why this is such a heavy focus for you to really getting people to overcome resistance? I know it's a big thing. People resist everything. People become fixed in their ways and their new changes, and it's easier to resist than to comply with resistance. But why is it so important for you to get person through this barrier of overcoming resistance? Just help us to see through your eyes.
Resistance is pain. Resistance is
Mhm.
struggle. Resistance is you have the original resistance, and then we resist against our resistance.
Mhm.
Like people are like, I don't want to accept this part of me. I want to cut this part out. I want to ride on top of it. I want to do this. Like resistance, and then resisting that keeps us in constant pain and conflict. And so, because we're talking about business, money, managing all that, if you're using your energy resisting your own resistance and not being able to logically access it and trying to escape it, right?
Mhm.
How much energy is that taking from you when you
A
could
lot.
be using it on the thing, organizing your money, pulling in loose end, tidying up stuff, or investing your money, or starting your business, or writing your book, or enjoying what you have worked so hard to create. And there are so many people who have this incredible life and they don't enjoy it. So resistance is everything. I think a lot of people don't identify it as resistance, but it's
Mhm.
the resistance. So, and the book kind of goes through why we do all this and then does the step-by-step method so you can access this by yourself. Some people don't want to share this experience. It can feel terrifying to look at things you don't want to look at. So it's all in there. But me, I finished the book, right? And then I just wouldn't do the last step and publish it. And that went on for a long time. And I was like, Whitney, you know better. And so I had to sit down and point the finger back at myself. And the first, what it could feel like, and I'm just going to talk about my experience. Everybody has their own. Your body starts to feel uncomfortable. And so you process that uncomfortable. Like my chest got tight. I felt all squirrely. You want to get up and run away, and you don't. You just lean in and you look at the resistance and you're like, you make sense. Our mind wants to go, oh, it's because of this, blah, 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 blah. No, you tell the mind to go sit on the shelf, get a bag of popcorn, and you feel how resistant it is, and you get curious about it, and your body will give up information. And after a few rounds, I got this little tiny kernel, and it was this fear of disappointing someone. I was
Mhm.
so the hidden resistance that I was fighting against when I would shame myself into just do it, Whitney, just get it over the finish line. Like you've done the hard part. You're fighting against yourself. You're resisting. The little resistance inside of me was like so terrified, petrified. One person out of whoever would read the book would be disappointed. Do you think that was a reasonable thing?
I
No.
don't think so at all. I don't think so at all. Because the thing about it is that, I'm really happy that you can relate what you do to your experiences because I'm fully aware that persons can be trapped in this place for a lifetime. Sometimes you even have to embrace the resistance from the perspective that if you're fearful that somebody's going to say something negative about your project, so what? Embrace that. One of the
That's
things that we
hard.
have learned.
That's hard for some people though,
Yeah,
right?
it's very hard. It's very, very hard for some people to embrace it. I think and that's, how challenging your role is as a teacher, as a mentor, as a coach, is to really help people to recognize that you can never, ever please everyone. You can't. You can't. Don't even try to do it. And so you could be doing the best of things. There's going to be someone that will not see eye to eye with you. And that's okay. It's quite okay. You have developed a me method. We spoke about this, but I would love to hear it from you again. I would love you to share with the audience what the me method is all about and how this ties into some of your long-term vision for your business.
Okay. Me method is basically all that we talked about, kind of testing this. How do you give somebody, basically, like, how do you blow out all the cobwebs you don't even know you're carrying into every situation? And it is a method that is about 12 weeks if you do once a week. And really, it's 36 hours of your life, radically change everything. And I know that
Mhm.
sounds like hyperbole, but it's just true based on the evidence of my experience. But it starts with overwhelm, and it goes through these big emotions like anxiety, annoyance, disappointment. We just talked about anger, and it like culminates to guilt, shame, and regret. Distance, and some of these also correlate to diseases like anger, heart attacks, things like that, resistance, cancer. So, and I've had some clients go, my medical stuff has gotten better since we did this. Is this, it's a correlation. There's not, I don't have that research yet, but I would love to do that. But so you travel through these emotions and you do, like you said, part of the job of the coach or the mentor is to make it easy. So you go through a similar system with each emotion and you list everything. So if I asked you, what are you overwhelmed about? And I gave you enough time to list everything you're overwhelmed at. And then I invite you, what have you ever been overwhelmed about? And you get to write that down. And then, ask some more questions about this, that, and the other to trigger what other things. So at the end, I've had people have 5 pages, and that's called the fence. And so you have the
Mhm.
evidence in front of you, and the mind ping pongs around. But once you have all that evidence, there's the grounding and this deep validation. We go through several processes, then there's a wall, and that's more thoughts, beliefs, the subsequent emotions from looking at that. Basically, we do a deep dive into the body, into those feelings, like I said, where I went and found that part of me terrified of disappointment. And people are amazed at what they found. And it's like, oh, I know this, but I had no idea that it was still going on like this. Like I'm hidden under the bed with my little sister, and my parents are fighting in the room, and I have to be strong for her, even though I'm afraid. Like
Mhm.
this, that could be literally connected to balancing your checkbook. It's
Right.
wild how these things are connected. Anyway, you do that, and then there are a few more steps in there where you dismantle that and you get it down to a zero where it no longer hijacks you, and you bring it back up into your heart and basically reorganize your parts and let them off the hook because they're not little kids anymore, and you're gonna be responsible for them. You make a plan about what you want instead. In a
Mhm.
nutshell, that's kind of one leg of 12 legs. Anyway, I wish I could give people the understanding of how liberating it feels to let go of stuff that's constantly got you bound up.
Elevate your business with 10x Branding and Marketing LLC. Our expert team specializes in enhancing your brand's visibility and connecting you with your ideal clients. We employ strategies that increase reach, leaving a lasting impact and driving client conversion. Trust and credibility are vital in businesses and excel in building them even with a limited budget. Our cost-effective approaches ensure you get the best results without overspending. Ready to boost your business cash flow? Contact us at 332-235 T99 and let 10x Branding and Marketing LLC guide you to success. Our focus is on elevating your visibility, which directly translates to growth. Experience the power of effective branding and marketing with us and witness your business thrive.
Yeah, I love that. I do believe that you have to learn to let go of the things that you can control, or perhaps you don't even have any business attempting to even control it. And that's a skill set, that's a knowledge set that people need to learn and apply and master. And that's part of the role. You got it. you, you got it. A lot of what you talk about also in terms of the science, and there's a lot of science out there also. And I'm happy that we have a lot of great minds like yourself who are out there. You're doing the research, you're documenting the research, and you're sharing the research with the world. So people just have to ensure that they make themselves available to learn more from people like yourself and from the information that is out there. And I'm certain that they can embrace transformation, because I truly believe that people can transform their lives. I truly believe that people need to detox from a lot of the lies and embrace and their true essence, and flourish in their true essence, and that's in flourishing in their real self. And there are a lot of signs. Perhaps in our next interview or next conversation, we can dig a little deeper into the science. But I want us to go through a couple of things quickly, and perhaps you can take a minute and to 30 seconds to a minute to answer each of the questions that I now want to go. This is a rapid one now.
Okay.
I want us, yeah, I want us to talk about habits that leads to success, and I want us to go through a couple of those things. And question one: what are habits that influence success?
I think they're the ones that we're seeing all over the place. Meditation.
Meditation.
I think meditation is number one. Honestly, I know not everyone's into exercise. It doesn't have to be extreme, Orange Theory or whatever, but some form of moving your body for the positive endorphins, but also as kind of a walking meditation.
Hmm.
Knowing yourself is the only way to know what you're going to do. And to-do lists, those three
All right.
things, if you did that for a week, you'd be surprised at the end of the week.
Okay. For you, how would you define success? You have all this success behind you, but how would you define success?
I mean, I think there are lots of ways, but I'm going to take the more esoteric path here. um,
Okay.
I know we all want money, the house, the security, our kids to be provided for. And I think that the research says making $75,000 a year creates happiness, and anything over that doesn't necessarily increase happiness. And
Okay.
maybe that marker has moved a little bit, but I think success is this: it's doing something that maybe scares you a little, that pushes you to the edge of your comfort zone, that when you turn and let somebody into it, you feel like this is what I've done with my time right now, with my life, and that I've accomplished this, or I have failed knowing that I tried. I think that's success. I think success is so much more than just the stuff, because
Love it.
we are going to die. We have
Hmm.
only so many marbles in the thing that we can pull out, and we don't really know how many each one of us has, but each day is a marble. And if you do something that makes you feel good about being you, that is success.
I love that. What is your blueprint for success? Do you have a blueprint for success?
Listen to other people. Books have, I did a lot of school, and that taught me that the school just reads the book for you to break it down, and you have obviously the support and friendship, but books, there's so much out there now more than ever, and more than books, like these chats all over YouTube and the socials. Like, listen and trust your gut. The blueprint for success is, it's always somewhere outside of you, but you already have it inside of you, right? And you
Hmm.
just need those things to meet and take the leap. I had to take a lot of leaps. You had to take a lot of leaps in believing something. You're like, I don't know about that, right?
Definitely, definitely, definitely.
That is how people, and have your mentors, have your coaches, have your people. All the people that you see, they have their people, right?
You're perfectly correct with that. The next question I want to ask you is: you're successful, but I'm certain that your journey to success wasn't a straight path. But I think the average person looking at you, they're going to say, well, you had the red carpet thrown at you, you had the gold spoon, you were fed with the gold spoon, and they tend not to see, the other things. I mean, just to talk about your success a little bit, I want to look at a couple of things, and then we're going to come back to the question. You have a bachelor degree in fine arts. You study psychology, you study physics, you study painting, you have started a business and start your better life. and it has been in operation for over 10 years. You're a successful transformational mentor. You have been in the space with the Dalai Lama. You have been nominated for a Nobel Prize. You are an author, a successful author. You have all of these success behind you, but I think people tend to see the success but not necessarily see your challenges. Can you tell us a little bit what challenges you had to overcome to be as successful as you are today?
There are a lot of challenges. I think I mentioned some of them. Panic
Mhm.
disorder.
Yeah.
My mother had Alzheimer's early on, starting at 18, my age, not hers. A lot of chaos, a lot of uncertainty. I worked in a bar and paid for my college. And that's probably why I stayed a really long time, because I didn't have anyone saying, hey, finish up. I'm paying for this or whatever. So I stayed for a really long time. Noted. But and then after all that, I had multiple jobs. I was a consultant with a publishing agency, and then that sort of dried up because I stayed as an entrepreneur, and I never took the paycheck and the bonuses and all that way. And it kind of dried up. And I remember sitting in my apartment at the time. I had $100 in my savings account and not really knowing what was going to happen. And I just, I did all the work and all the belief, and then took the leap of like, you know what, I know it's going to work out. And I started a different business at that time. It was called Stitched, Mending the World, one stitch at a time. It was a handbag company, and went to conferences and put it on some credit cards. And I kept believing in myself, even when the picture was like, you should really be concerned. Like I didn't have health insurance,
Yeah.
but like I said, I felt really good about what I was doing, and I just kept leaning into that and learning from little mistakes and what other people were doing. And I mean, don't give up in yourself, right? Just keep believing in yourself. You know, the guy
Yeah.
who did the Macy's Day Parade, who's the owner of the whole giant department store, he failed with other people's money over and over again. He never gave up because he had this vision, and he just had to find the right timing, the right space, and the right
Yeah,
people.
exactly. Whitney, I can listen to you, and because I admire your courage. I mean, you lost your mom and dad very early. You had to be, the breadwinner for the family. You had to work and study, but you allow none of that to hold you back. You keep pressing on. And I want to say congratulations. If you've never heard it from anyone, I personally want to say congratulations, and for being tough and being strong and fighting it out and holding your grounds and to be where you are today. But tell me this, do you have regrets in life that is, either holding you back or pushing you forward?
That's a great question. I think it was the fear of having regret that really helped
Push
me
you forward. Mm.
go where I have gone. So I
Mm.
can't say that I regret. In micro moments, I think I've regretted some things, like staying in a relationship too long, not believing in, the scary thing, but those were
Yeah.
micro regrets. And then again, I look back and it all led me here to have the capacity,
Mm.
right, to walk with people on their journey.
Great. Without a doubt, Whitney, I've listened to your story and I talked with you, previously, and I see you as an influencer. You are an influencer. What would you say inspire you to become an influencer in your industry?
I suffered a lot.
Mhm.
I found ways to really deal with that in a way that took it away. And when I say took it away, like my story's not gone, my allegiance to things I loved and lost is not gone, but we don't have to suffer the way we suffer. It is a burning mission to help people know so that they
I
can live
love
better.
that. I love that. And that's
I
very
think,
noble.
and I really think each one of us that starts to heal those parts that are in opposition, we make the whole world better.
You're perfectly correct. And I must say that's very noble of you. And to use your experience, to use your knowledge, and to throw your pebble out into the world that can create a positive ripple effect of healing the world, of helping people to go through less than challenges. Because with your experience, you can really help them and to become better masters of how to navigate in life. So that's very noble of you. We're about to wrap up now, and I just have a few more questions. And I must ask you, what impact do you want to make on the world? How do you want to be remembered?
I would love for people to move through life knowing that they are necessary the way they are. They make sense, feeling and thinking what they're feeling and thinking, and that the next best version of themselves is right there whenever they're ready. No push, no need, unless it's a calling. We're all here, we're all necessary. And I would love to impact younger people and do university classes to cut some of the struggling and the moments of worthlessness and scrapping, trying to find that authentic voice that's so painful, to give that a boost, because each one of us is a gift to each other, to the world,
Mm,
and to help that.
I can feel your big heart.
But it's
I do
possible.
believe.
It's
No, no,
possible.
no. It's very, very possible. We have a lot of talking to do. I'm going to share with you some thoughts. I mean, we are currently looking at what we call the Science of Success University, and I'll share with you some of what we are discussing, and perhaps that can be a platform where you, how should I put this? You are now waiting on the opportunity because you're now networking with a team of persons that's going to create the opportunity. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'm interested in hearing more. Yeah.
Yeah, we will definitely talk. So tell me a little bit about some of your future plans. What are some of the big future plans that you have for the business?
So the book, helping people have, a real easy way to access this for themselves, and putting my information so people have questions or want to chat with me. I have complimentary calls. They can do that. But the big picture is then, I think, like I said, I would love to do research and like longitudinal studies to do the method with young people and track them. Love to do the method with, groups like people diagnosed with certain illnesses, to see how that helps support them through their journey. Grief groups. But then I've had my groups that I've done along the way to test the process. And I would love to do, like, you're talking about Success University. Who knows, maybe it'd be Me University or Emotional, but to
Like,
really help people go through this supported, because you can do it on your own. I put it in the book, but it's just like yoga. Sometimes it's easier to go to a class, and then you have the community, and to share the profound shifts with somebody who gets it is a really unique experience in one's journey. So that's kind of where my arrow is pointed, to kind of grow it and invite more people to have the experience.
Correct. I love that you say that, the journey of business and the journey of life should never be the me, myself, and I. I would often say in business that you need a team. And the way we teach it in business is that in starting a business, you need your organization chart. And there are three areas of leadership that must stand out on the organization chart. Who's your strategic team? Who's your tactical team? And who's your operational team? Now, what we have seen is that if you don't have this built out this way, it undermines the vision itself, because at the strategic level there are critical stakeholders that should be there, all right, that will free you up the time that you need to really think about the project. And you need to have your tactical team also to help in it with the interpretation and the dissemination and management of the vision. And then you have the operational team. But these are all things we will talk about some more as time progresses. I really love what you're doing. I have two more questions to ask you. I love your vision. I love the possibility of perhaps even having the Me method and the Me University. I think all of it is possible. And we'll talk about it, and any help that we can give. We are there with you 101%. What we have seen, to move a vision forward, there is a need for capital. So the next question I want to ask you has a lot to do with capital. And what I want to ask you is, how important is access to capital for you and the future vision that you have?
I've been fortunate to not need that, and been able to kind of operate and do these things with the support of some past clients, like I said, but also just having enough clients and having like not break that threshold. It's hard to answer just because haven't considered it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Perhaps as you start to grow and expand, that may come in necessary. But I want to share this with you still. Part of what we do. What state are you in?
Texas.
Texas. All right. Part of what we do in the US and across 50 states, we help rising stars like yourself to access capital. The beauty about working with us to access capital, it is some of the financial instrument is non-collateral collateralized. So you don't have to think, hey, I have to have a house, I have to have a car, I have to have, some building and collateralize that to access funding. We understand businesses and where they're at. Sometimes you're starting alone, and sometimes you don't have all of the support systems that you need, and all you need is that one big break. And sometimes that's all you need to make it. So we have built a relationship with multiple financial institutions that can help rising stars like yourself to access what we call non-collateralized loan. And secondly, you can also access the capital at 0% APR for let's say 12, 18, or 24 months. What that means is that you have monies to increase your visibility, your reach, your impact, and client conversion, and no interest to pay for a period of time. But we'll talk more on these issues. And I love your vision. I know that you want to reach more people in the world, and you deserve it. And I think more people should get access to your books and the information that you have. So we'll talk about that some more. The last question that I want to ask you is, what are essential money habits that you think people should have?
I mean, I think the tried and true. So this might be different than the whole borrowing money to go. I mean, there's this, but spend less than you make. Spend less than you make.
Spend less than you make.
Now, that's
I
like on
love,
a personal level, I mean, the most basic way to manage your money, spend less
yeah,
than you
I love that. I love
and
that.
do transformational work, because almost every single person I've worked with has created more money in their life. It is crazy. They could be working on relationships and all of a sudden they get almost $700,000 in back pay for work they said they would do for free. So
Okay.
that's a real story, right? So do the
Yeah.
emotional and manage your money.
Okay. Well, I must say I love your first answer, but I love, love, love the second answer, which is making more money,
Yeah.
because I do believe that anyone that can really learn and master the art of making more money, it's a great money habit to have. It's a great money habit to have.
Life is
All
meant to
right.
be.
Exactly. So, Whitney, this one is all about you now. We have spent the last hour and a half talking, and there might have been a question that you'd wanted me to ask that I didn't ask. There might have been something that you'd wanted to say that you didn't get to say. I want to give you the opportunity to use this time to say it now. And because today it's all about you.
Oh, thank you. We've covered a lot of turf, and it has been amazing chatting with you. And in between all the little topics, I could see where we could actually speak for 10 hours. And I would love an opportunity to come chat with you more about all of
Yeah.
these really fun things. But most important, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to thoroughly look at different aspects of how this all came to be. It's been fun to sort of link them together and chat about them. And you're just a wonderful host. And I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. And I must say, it has been such a pleasure talking with you also. I've learned a lot. I've taken away a lot. I feel you. I feel your heart. I know that your heart is with people, and you really want to help people to experience transformation in their lives. I consider myself truly blessed to have interfaced with you, and because I think it's not so often we find people that is so committed to serving others at the highest level. And I want to just give you the encouragement to keep doing what you're doing, because I know that you have what it takes to make a positive impact on people and a positive impact on the world. Welcome. Welcome. This might have been our first interview, but I'm looking forward to doing so much more interviews with you. For the audience, there you had it. Today we talked with Whitney Riley, and she's a great mind. In the event that you have a business and you want to up level your business, you want to put your business through transformation. In the event you yourself want to learn how to transform your life, Whitney has tremendous experience, lots of knowledge in doing what she's doing, and I truly encourage you to connect with Whitney and take your life, your business to the next level. So, with that being said, Whitney, thanks again for spending this time with me, and we will definitely talk soon.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Essential Care Pharmacy, providing more than your healthcare needs. Get the best in muscle building products, health supplement products, beauty care products, medical supplies, colognes and cosmetics, blood pressure testing kits. Access our medical doctors, and so much more. Essential Care Pharmacy, your leading healthcare provider.